My name's Haley, and I was 28 years old the morning I finally snapped. Christmas should have been about family laughter, maybe even a little peace. Instead, it turned into the day I realized just how invisible I'd always been in my parents' house. We were in the living room of their place in Portland. The tree gave off that faint artificial pine smell, the kind you recognize instantly because it came from a box in the garage. Torn wrapping paper was scattered everywhere, and the air smelled of gingerbread. I sat cross-legged on the hardwood floor, holding a cheap little envelope in my hand. Across from me, my younger sister Kendall was twirling a brand new set of BMW keys, letting the light from the tree dance off the metal. She pranced around like she'd just been crowned queen of the world. "My own Beamer," she squealed, bouncing on her toes like a kid half her age. Outside in the driveway, I could see it through the frosted window. A shiny 2024 BMW X5, white as snow, with a ridiculous oversized red bow strapped to the hood. It wasn't just a car. It was a glowing monument to favoritism. My dad beamed at her like she just cured cancer. My mom clasped her hands together, her eyes shining, like this was the miracle of Christmas itself. Me? I stared down at the envelope in my lap. Mom had urged me to open it. I slid out a generic gift card, turned it over in my hand, and saw the number. $1. That was it. One single dollar. The room went quiet, except for Kendall's happy squeals. My dad cleared his throat, a sound I'd learned meant he was about to say something wise. "It's the start of your future home fund, honey. You're always so responsible with money, unlike some people." He winked at Kendall. She giggled, pretending to be offended, but we all knew she didn't care. She was too busy holding her brand new keys. I sat there frozen, my fingers tight around the useless little card. Anger burned in my chest, but beneath it was something sharper, clarity. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't forgetfulness. It was a statement. A message I'd been hearing my whole life. You don't matter as much as she does. For years I'd been the reliable one. The one who loaned Kendall money when her design business collapsed. The one who canceled plans to pick her up from parties. The one who had to be practical while she got to be the star. And now? A $65,000 car for her. A single dollar for me. I stood up slowly, still holding that pathetic card. "I need to go for a walk," I said, my voice steady. Mom's smile faltered. "But honey, we haven't had Christmas lunch yet." I didn't answer. I pulled on my jacket, grabbed my keys, and walked out into the cold Portland morning. The air outside was sharp, biting, but it felt cleaner than the suffocating warmth I'd left behind. My old Toyota sat at the curb, a car with over 200,000 miles and an interior that smelled faintly of stale coffee. It groaned when I turned the key, but it started just like it always did. I didn't look back. I knew what I'd see. That shiny white BMW with the bow, parked like a trophy in the driveway. A reminder of where I stood in my own family. I drove aimlessly at first, my GPS waiting for a destination. Seattle, where my small apartment was. I couldn't face being alone there, not yet. My chest felt tight. I needed someone who'd understand. So I scrolled through my contacts and tapped Chloe's name. She'd been my best friend since college, another structural engineer like me. She picked up on the third ring. "Haley? You sound different. What happened?" And just like that, I broke. The words poured out of me, the BMW, the $1 card, the years of being invisible. Chloe listened quietly, the way only she knew how. When I finally stopped for breath, her voice came through calm but firm. "Don't go back to Seattle. Drive south. Come to San Francisco. Stay with me as long as you need. We'll figure it out together. You need space. You need safety." Her words were like a lifeline, a real option, a way out. For the first time that day, I felt my lungs fill with air. "All right," I whispered. "I'll come." I set the GPS for San Francisco and pulled back onto the highway, leaving Portland, and the broken role I'd been forced to play behind me. The road stretched ahead of me, a long black ribbon cutting through the cold gray of Oregon. My Toyota hummed beneath me, faithful despite its years. And for the first time in my life, I didn't have a plan. I just knew I had to keep moving. The phone on the passenger seat lit up again and again, first Mom, then Dad, then Kendall. I let them all go to voicemail. At a gas station outside Eugene, I grabbed a hot dog and a burnt cup of coffee, and as I stood there staring at the neon lights, My phone buzzed with a text from Kendall. Haley, where are you? Mom and Dad are worried sick. Please call us. I felt a flicker of guilt, then a cold wave of resolve. They weren't worried about me, they were worried about the mess I wasn't there to fix. I climbed back into the Toyota and opened my banking app. My hands shook, but I kept going. I closed the joint account I still had with my parents, shut down the household credit card they'd been using for years, because it was easier that way. One by one I severed every tie. Then I blocked their numbers. All of them. The silence afterward was almost shocking but also freeing. For the first time I wasn't available. I wasn't on call. I wasn't theirs to use. The sun dipped lower, bleeding orange and red across the sky. I drove through the night, headlights carving tunnels through the dark. Somewhere along the line, exhaustion gave way to something I hadn't felt in years. Possibility. By morning I pulled into a greasy diner with a neon sign that simply read Crossroads. Fitting name. The place smelled like bacon grease and burnt coffee. I slid into a booth, ordered the strongest cup they had, and sat there staring out at the parking lot. The waitress, a woman with graying hair and kind eyes, topped off my cup without asking. Long night, honey, she said gently. I just nodded. Words felt heavy in my throat. She didn't push, just patted my shoulder and walked away. That small kindness nearly broke me. After another hour on the road, I stopped at a rest area and collapsed in the back seat, setting my alarm for 3 hours. I was out the second I closed my eyes. When I woke up, my phone was vibrating nonstop. Dozens of missed calls, piles of voicemails. My chest tightened, but I forced myself to listen. First Kendall. Tearful, confused. Haley, please just call us. Mom's freaking out. Then Dad, stern, impatient. This is ridiculous. Pick up. You're worrying your mother sick. And finally, Mom. Her voice cracked with anger and panic. Haley, enough. This isn't funny. You're ruining Christmas. Your father is sick with worry. Do you have any idea what you're doing to us? And then came the last one. Her voice wasn't pleading anymore. It was cold, hard, panicked in a different way. Haley, you need to understand something. The BMW, it's in your name. We needed your credit to get the loan. The bank's calling already. If you don't come back and fix this, we'll report the car stolen. Don't be a fool. Do the right thing. My hands went numb. The phone slipped from my grip and thudded onto the floor mat. My chest burned, not from shock anymore but recognition. It had never been about love. Never about me. It was about money. About what they could get from me. I sat there for a long time, staring at the highway stretching south. And then I knew there was no going back. Not now, not ever. San Francisco wasn't just a destination anymore. It was my escape route. Hours later, the golden hills of California rose into view. By the time I reached the city, the sun was melting into the Pacific, painting the sky in purple and fire. And then there it was, the Golden Gate Bridge stretched out like a promise. I called Chloe. My voice cracked when I spoke. I'm here. She told me to wait outside her apartment. A few minutes later, she came running down the steps, her face etched with relief. She hugged me tight, and for the first time since leaving Portland, I felt a sliver of peace. Come on, she said, pulling me toward the elevator. You look like you've been living in that car for a week. She wasn't wrong. My legs wobbled under me as she led me upstairs. In her small apartment, she showed me the guest room. A clean bed, soft pillows, a down comforter. Take a shower, she said, handing me a towel. I'll order pizza. We'll talk tomorrow. I stood under the hot spray for nearly an hour, letting the grime of the road wash off, letting the last remnants of my old life swirl down the drain. When I came out, Chloe had a pizza box open on the counter. Pepperoni. My favorite. She slid a plate toward me, and I devoured it like I hadn't eaten in days. So, she said softly, you want to talk about it? And I did. I told her everything, the BMW, the $1 card, the voicemails, the threats. She listened, her jaw tightening with quiet fury. They used you, she said finally, her voice low. They used your credit, your trust, your responsibility. And then they had the nerve to threaten you with it. I looked down at my hands, still shaking with rage. I'm done. I'm not calling them back. I'm not hiring a lawyer. They made their bed, they can lie in it. For the first time, Chloe smiled. Good. That's the Haley I know. And sitting there in her kitchen, pizza grease on my fingers, I realized she was right. For the first time in my life, I wasn't running back to fix things. I was done. The first few mornings in San Francisco felt unreal. Like I was living someone else's life. I woke up in Chloe's spare room, sunlight sneaking through half-open blinds, the sound of the city drifting up from the street. For the first time in years, my phone didn't buzz with demands. No voicemails. No guilt-ridden texts. Just silence. At first, the silence scared me. I'd been conditioned to expect chaos, to always be on standby for the next family emergency. But slowly it started to feel like freedom. Chloe wasted no time. My firm's hiring, she told me over lattes at a corner cafe. Senior structural engineer. You should apply. I almost laughed. A job? I hadn't even caught my breath yet. But the idea lit a spark in me. Work had always been my anchor. The one thing no one could take away from me. I'll think about it, I said. Don't think. Do, she shot back. So I did. I sent in my resume, dusted off my portfolio, and within a week I had interviews lined up. At the same time, I called my old firm and asked about transferring to the Bay Area office. Options. Choices. For once I had them. Chloe also handed me a list of therapists. Pick one, she said, no nonsense in her tone. I'd resisted therapy my whole life. I was the strong one, the problem solver. But I couldn't deny the weight I'd been carrying. So I made an appointment with Dr. Carter, a soft-spoken woman with calm eyes and an office full of sunlight. Our first session was brutal. I sat across from her and spilled everything. Not just the BMW or the $1 card, but the years of being the responsible one. The girl who paid for her own college while her sister's tuition was covered. The woman who bailed Kendall out of debt time after time. The daughter who was useful but never cherished. Dr. Carter listened, never interrupting. And when I finally stopped, her words hit like a hammer. You've been living in a cycle of codependency for a very long time. You've been the rescuer. But rescuers always lose themselves. Rescuer. That word lodged deep in my chest. She was right. My whole life had been about patching other people's holes, and I'd never noticed how empty it had left me. That night I sat on the floor of my new apartment, a tiny place I just signed the lease for, barely a few blocks from Chloe's. I opened a blank notebook and started making a list. Every time I'd sacrifice myself for them. My 18th birthday, $100 for me. A new laptop for Kendall. My graduation, nothing for me, a trip to Europe for her. My promotion, barely a nod, while Kendall got a new apartment. The list grew and grew, a lifetime of second place. But writing it down was like draining poison. Each line made me feel lighter. Chloe suggested I find something new, something that had nothing to do with work or family. Try a class. Pottery, painting, whatever. Just something that's yours. I signed up for a beginner's pottery workshop. The first night I was a disaster. Clay stuck to my hair, my hands, my shoes. My pot looked more like a collapsed mushroom than anything useful. But for the first time in ages, I didn't care. I wasn't striving to be perfect. I was just creating. And that's where I met him. Liam sat 2 wheels over. Quiet, focused, with a half-smile that seemed to hide more than it revealed. He was a landscape architect, he told me later, someone who loved working with his hands. That night we ended up talking long after class ended about mountains, hiking trails, and why Clay never listens to beginners. He never asked about my family. Never prodded at wounds I wasn't ready to expose. He just listened. And for someone like me who'd always been overlooked unless I was useful, that felt like oxygen. Week by week, pottery class became my sanctuary. I wasn't Haley the scapegoat, or Haley the responsible daughter. I was just Haley, the woman trying to shape clay and laughing when it collapsed in her hands. And Liam was always there, his calm presence steadying me in ways I couldn't explain. Outside class, life began to click into place. I got hired at a new firm as a senior structural engineer, eventually promoted to project manager. The work was demanding, but it felt good because it was mine. My apartment, though small, became a home. I decorated it with plants, paintings, and shelves filled with my crooked little pots. Dr. Carter's words replayed in my head often. Rescuers always lose themselves. I was determined not to lose myself again. With Liam, things deepened slowly. We hiked the Marin headlands. We cooked dinners together. We spent rainy nights on the couch, not needing to fill every silence. For the first time I felt like someone saw me, not for what I could give but for who I was. Months passed. I hadn't heard from my family. No calls, no letters, nothing. At first, the quiet gnawed at me like phantom pain. But gradually it became peace. I learned how to breathe without waiting for the next demand. I was no longer their daughter on standby. I was simply me. And for the first time in my life that was enough. It had been nearly a year since I'd left Portland when the phone call came. An unfamiliar number flashed on my screen, and against my better judgment I answered. "Haley? It's Madison." My cousin's voice was warm, nervous. "I know it's been a while, but I'm getting married. At Magnolia Gardens. It would mean so much if you came." Portland. The very city I'd sworn I'd never set foot in again. The place I'd fled with nothing but my old Toyota and a cracked heart. For a moment I couldn't breathe. Going back meant risking everything, the fragile peace I'd built, the strength I'd fought for. But deep down I knew I had to. Not for them. For me. That night I told Liam. He didn't hesitate. "Then I'm coming with you," he said simply. We drove north together, the miles rolling past in quiet stretches of conversation. By the time we checked into a downtown hotel with a view of the Willamette River, my chest felt tight with nerves. The next morning my phone buzzed with a text. "Haley, I heard you're in town. Come by for dinner. I made spaghetti." Mom. As if nothing had ever happened. As if they hadn't threatened to report a BMW stolen in my name. I blocked her number again without replying. The wedding was held in a rose garden, the air fragrant with summer blooms. I walked in hand with Liam, my pulse hammering as familiar eyes turned toward me. Aunts, uncles, cousins, people I hadn't seen in years, looked at me with a mix of surprise and curiosity. And then I saw them. My parents sitting stiffly at a table near the back. Dad's hair grayer, Mom's frame thinner. Kendall beside them, her glow dimmed, her smile forced. No BMW keys twirling now. Just shadows in their faces. I smiled at Madison, hugged her, complimented her dress. I mingled, made small talk, talked about my job and my pottery hobby. I wasn't the ghost they remembered. I was confident, whole. And I could see the confusion in their eyes. Eventually Mom approached. Her smile was brittle. "Haley, honey. We need to talk." Dad and Kendall flanked her like guards. I let Liam squeeze my hand once before I followed them into the quiet library next to the reception hall. The air was heavy, the silence thick. Dad spoke first. "You've hurt us. You hurt your mother. You hurt Kendall. This behavior isn't acceptable. You can't just run away from your family." I let the words hang for a beat. Then I answered, calm and steady. "No. You're wrong. I didn't run away from my family. I walked away from people who used me." The color drained from Mom's face. Kendall's eyes blazed. "How can you say that? You're the one who ruined everything." I reached into my bag and pulled out a manila folder. I laid it on the table, the sound sharp in the quiet room. "I didn't come here to fight," I said. "I came to show you the truth." One by one, I spread the documents out. Tuition receipts showing I'd paid my own way through college while theirs covered Kendall's. Old credit card statements where I bailed her out after her shopping sprees. Records of money transferred, rent paid, debts covered. "This is me," I said, my voice rising. "The daughter who carried her own weight, and yours too. The daughter who was responsible, hardworking, dependable. And you know what that got me? A $1 gift card." Mom's lips parted, but no words came. Dad's jaw tightened. Kendall's hands balled into fists. I didn't stop. I pulled out the phone records, the endless calls, the voicemails, the threats. "You didn't care if I was okay. You just cared about what I could do for you. You used me like a credit card." Finally, I slid out one last item. A photograph of me at 7 years old holding my favorite doll. My hands trembled as I set it down. This was the girl who just wanted to be loved. But she learned the truth: you can't buy love. You can't earn it. And you sure as hell can't beg for it from people who don't know how to give it. The silence was suffocating. Mom's eyes glistened with tears, but I'd seen that act too many times before. Dad finally spoke, his voice low. "We just want you to come home." I shook my head. "Home? I have a home. In San Francisco. A life I built myself. I'm not your scapegoat anymore. If you want me in your lives, it'll be in therapy with boundaries. Otherwise, I'm done. Their faces fell. Anger, disbelief, fear. But I didn't waver. I'd said my piece. I turned, walked out of that library and back into the wedding. Liam was waiting right where I left him. He didn't ask. He just took my hand. That night, as we drove back south, a strange calm settled over me. For the first time in my life, I wasn't carrying their weight. I was free. Months passed. Therapy helped me untangle the mess they'd left inside me. Work thrived. Liam and I grew closer, steady and real. Then one day, a text came from an unknown number. Kendall. I'm sorry. I know I messed up. I started pottery too. It helps. Attached was a photo of a crooked little bowl, lopsided but whole. I stared at it for a long time, unsure how to feel. Sadness, maybe. Hope too. Later, a letter arrived from Mom. Pages of apologies. Talk of therapy. Explanations I wasn't sure I believed. But it didn't matter. I wasn't waiting for their love anymore. I had found my own. I'd built a life where I was seen, respected, and whole. And no matter what happened with them, I knew one thing for certain. I was no longer theirs to break. I was mine.